I don't really care if sava goes up or down. I care about what happens when the data comes out. So here's an example of 1.5 points 8s cog will likely to meet the primary endpoint.
If this trial fails, kitty, I'm putting you in the stove. We're gonna have kitty fried rice.
Yeah, so you need some 8s cog change, and it's just hard to get. If you look at some of the studies I'd looked at, getting separation from placebos is really hard. The nice thing about binary events is the rubber has to hit the road. So in a stock like NVIDIA, they're growing very rapidly. The AI revolution is here. They're powering that revolution. Whether you believe that or not doesn't matter because the revenue is going up every quarter. So shorting that means that you have to wait for definitive proof that the AI revolution is not here, that it's slowed down, or is a lot worse than expected. You might have to wait years for that to be proven. So shorting NVIDIA is a little scary because the market can be very irrational. Even if the AI revolution isn't here, the thesis could change to something else. With Cassava, again, there's no such thing as a perfect trade or risk-free trade. You can always lose money, no matter what it is. But the nice thing about biotech that I've seen over the years is that if you have one asset, which is a drug, and that drug's phase 3 clinical trials are due by a certain date, the amount of time for chicanery of that stock, or maybe say the stock deviating in a large way from its true price, that amount of time has shrunk dramatically. And in fact, in the scheme of things, the time is basically zero. The stock go up this week or next week, sure, it might, but the reality must come in the next 20 business days, which is pretty great. Reality must be here. So it could be tonight. If it's not tonight, it could be tomorrow night, but there are only so many days left, around 20 business days. And again, we want to look at every single angle. If we don't look at every single angle possible, we're cheating ourselves. The last thing you want to do is be like the Cassava long that puts the fingers in the ears and says, la, 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 I don't want to listen to you. We don't do that, right? We want to look at every single angle completely dispassionately. In fact, the work I've done shows that mild and moderate are no different in Alzheimer's. That once you're in symptomatic stage, that disease process does not change. If you want to do disease modifying, you got to go 10 years earlier. Once you're losing your mind, it's over. They can delay the results, sure, they can do anything they want. They can put out fake results, but the probability of all that stuff happening is... Matteo, the pros and cons are fairly obvious to that. I do think Galaxy Gas would outperform 𝗍𝗏. Technically, who's going to stop them if they say they don't want to put out the results? Eventually, it's going to be the SEC, the FBI, people like that. Nobody knows the clinical trial data right now at Cassava. It's not expensive to hire somebody, especially if, you got 150 million in cash. Hiring somebody for 150K is not a big deal. I think Rick Barry is, he's sitting there as CEO, wants to expand the team a little bit. There's very few people that actually work at Cassava, so he's looking to pick up some people, maybe people he's met over the years as well. I don't know. Ultimately, who Rick hires is up to Rick, but I wouldn't try to read tea leaves too much. Yes, she also did some stuff outside of medical. Let's not disrespect the CCO. I'm sure she's good at what she does. But people like jobs. I don't see them repurchasing stock. When you have a biotech company with a failed drug, you do anything to conserve your cash, not to spend it. Schmelt, people want their salaries. Salary is a nice thing. Bonus is a nice. Plus, if the drug works, they might see a 50x and they get some free options. So it costs them nothing to join the company. In fact, they're getting paid. And a lot of times, these people have no idea about clinical data, just like you. I actually am making a website as well on the Cassava situation. It's called ontheimpossible.com. It's still not up yet, but it's going to be like an interactive site in React that kind of goes through the Cassava saga and helps people understand how it all works. It'd be good for me to dust off on some web dev. And Cassava doesn't know because data is blinded, and the data is blinded in a database, and the database gets locked by the CRO. Then the CRO unblinds the data, then But the database lock takes time. No, the clinical development officer doesn't know any data. the database stays locked. The way it works is, okay, let me explain. You can see the blinded data in aggregate. That is correct. That is how all clinical trials work. You have the study investigators. I'll put those in these little boxes. This is each doctor. Shut up! And using a electronic system, there's a company called Metadata that makes one. They're now part of the French software company called Dassault. This goes into the CRO's data platform. This is a doc, or study site. That's probably a better way to put it. So CRO has all the data and it's blinded. It's blinded data until data cleaning. So this is like looking for data that wasn't inputted correctly, double checking, stuff like that. And it's still blinded. Then finally, you have database lock. And this means the data cannot be changed. It is permanently locked. That is the final data set. No backtakes, no backseas. Then you do the unblind. You run the stat plan, and you have the results. At that point, you should report it immediately. But there is a chance that they say, well, you know, technically the milds did better or something like that, which would mean they still failed the primary endpoint. But I don't think the milds will do better. I actually think the moderates will do better this time around. This is a coin flip. There's no actual meaning. This is a phase 3 clinical trial. This is the final trial to determine if it works or not. Nothing wrong with LeetCode. It's not too useful to memorize LeetCode blindly. I think you have to understand the concepts, which are a lot harder to do. It's a lot easier to memorize the patterns. That's still not useless. I just think, you know, you're much better off studying, you know, the theory behind it. Database is not locked according to what they said recently. They're still data cleaning, but it doesn't take that long to lock a database. And then this whole process, the data cleaning process, is a little laborious. This is like 4 weeks, and we're past 4 weeks. This whole thing can all take place in one day. They did not lock on the 13th, unless you know something I don't know. It does not take 30 days. It takes 30 minutes. It should be soon, but they could take their time with data cleaning. You know, it is a big trial. They may not have the resources. I don't know. I used to be a real Buffettholic. I could impersonate him even better, because I know the stuff he would say about like C's candy and stuff like that. But I still love Buffett. I just, you know, I've grown into my own man. But yeah, I studied everything about Warren Buffett. I know stuff about Warren Buffett nobody knows. Addicted to Buffethology. I got some candid photos of Buffett that nobody's ever seen. I got some friend of mine had dinner with him many of my friends have had dinner with him and have told me some really interesting stories. I think he's great. Yeah. I mean, he's really the GOAT. Yeah, it's definitely continuously improving. We're getting Dow Jones newswires. Remember, you can always exclude newswires from the Godel news if it's too much. And then we will definitely have like a top news. I think that maybe that's what you're asking. We will definitely have a top news. And the SEC and DOJ really just read the newspaper. And when they see something, they're like, oh, you know what? I'll arrest that guy. That's how they get 90% of their news. And you lock in your price forever. That's the biggest part of the deal if you subscribe to Godel, because the price is going to be closer to Bloomberg's price eventually. But as we improve it, we're going to raise the price. But you know, you lock in for life if you subscribe now at 60. There's some people that locked in at 20 and 40 that are very lucky. I don't know when the next price increase is. What I really want is we're adding a bunch of foreign markets, and we're adding bonds. And then our options are pretty stable and solid, I think, right now. Let's see what options looks like. So this is very similar to the Bloomberg options console. I mean, we have a bunch of AI tools coming that Bloomberg just doesn't have. The roadmap in general is, you know, we want to help people do more sophisticated investing with quantitative stuff and other stuff Bloomberg just ignores. We may do order entry. We definitely want to do like portfolio systems so you can compare results with people and those kinds of things. But I think other asset classes is important. So eventually we'll get to $80 a month. And eventually we're just going to get off the monthly pricing in general, just so we can get to usage-based pricing. But definitely expect being able to like put out time series neural networks and like other advanced stuff here. I think we'll go public someday, yeah. We'll just switch to usage. Some people's bills will go up, some will go down, but the OG first couple thousand customers will have locked in pricing. I mean, we hope to get to 100,000 customers or 500,000 customers at some point. So I think, having a couple thousand customers in this weird old pricing plan that eventually will turn off at some point. 𝗘𝗍𝗹 will be able to charge, Bloomberg. I mean, Bloomberg is $25,000 a year because it makes you more productive. So let's say your salary as an analyst on Wall Street is $200,000. Will Bloomberg make you more than 10% productive? I think the answer is yes. So the reason is you have this command line, like I'm showing you right now, where if you work 10 hours a day on Wall Street and you want to pull up SEC filings, it's really hard to go pointing and clicking. You don't want to use the mouse. You just want to, look stuff up with your keyboard. And that's the nice thing about 𝗘𝗍𝗹. It's a nice thing about Bloomberg is you have this command line system where you don't ever have to lift your finger. And that's why, there's something really, really nice about that. It's a lot like the way a programmer programs in terminals and Linux and stuff like that. They don't, if they had to point and click on everything, they would quit. You can even move stuff like this. I'll go to resize. I really care about 𝗍𝗏. And I think there's a button, I think you can send it all the way across the screen. Oh, there you go. Control-Shift sends it. Yeah, so there's a lot of, we want to make it so that you never have to use your mouse. Right now we're not there yet, but like you should be able to do everything with a mouse. And that's the Excel mantra too. I think we have captured 10 to 20% of Bloomberg, maybe closer to 10 at a 3% of the price. So it'll take time. We're in it for the long haul. This is not going to be an overnight thing. But I think we have, we're going to have a stronger social function where people can talk and get to know each other. On Bloomberg, it's like strictly anonymous. They don't really give you a lot of options. And you can't really talk to management easily at Bloomberg. They just don't know what's going on. Mike's very checked out, and their talent bench is very, very, very limited. There's no public roadmap. But yeah, we'd like to make it easier for private equity and all that. Yeah, Jonas, we don't care about, you can share accounts. That's not something we're cracking down on anytime soon. Bloomberg's very, very, very aggressive about cracking down on sharing. They make it impossible to share. They lock you into 2-year contracts. Like, people hate Bloomberg. They make it hard to log in. They log you out automatically to force you to log back in. Yes, Tyler. Yes, locked in users are going to be just a special class of users that just always have this privilege. And you can sell your account. We're not going to stop you from, if you wanted to sell your account to Citadel or something, you can do that. But if you miss a payment, you cannot. I think we have to figure out what the grace period is, but if you do miss a payment, you got to go back to the back of the line. If you didn't update your credit card correctly or something, we'll give you a grace period. But if you affirmatively cancel, it's over. It's over. Relationship over. New best friend is who are our competitors? FinViz. There are no super responders to 𝗍𝗏. There's just noise in data sets. For every patient that did well, there's patients that did poorly. It's like an easy to see misunderstanding if you've seen this before. Well, the DSMB is company employees, right? So keep that in mind. The FDA does not intervene on trial results, but I think after the results come out, they may want to take a look. I don't think the FDA should stop them. That the FDA will halt it all is not unreasonable. The idea is like They lied to submit their IND. They lied in submissions to their IND. It is a felony to lie in submissions. So it depends on what they said in their IND supplements and stuff like that. So yeah, the marginal traders make the price, right? It's not the holders that make the price. So none of you can have a stock go down 90%, even with 99% of the holders not changing their position. No, the mild to versus moderate thing is a farce. That's just a spurious finding. And it's not even a good finding. They only had a 1-point decline in the controlled withdrawal. All the other data is irrelevant. 1 point was not even stat sig. So like they failed. They failed the mild study too. Well, pembrolizumab has been a really great cancer drug.
Because like, what would you do? Email them like, yo, can you like unblind me real quick? Like, let me just see that. Like, how do you convince them to give you that data? That's a good point.
Yeah, well, that's where they have PANTERA, their statistical group. And if you saw her give the presentation, it was really bad. Like she was talking about p-values after the alpha was spent. And like, this is getting a little wonky in terms of the drug industry, but like, you can only spend alpha once. This is like a golden rule of basic biostatistics. You cannot respend the alpha over and over again looking for subgroups and report the p-value as like, oh, it's all good. The p-value is 0.14. It's like, it's not 0.14. You have to say that that's the nominal p-value without multiplicity corrections. You know, Buffettholic correction method, there's a whole bunch. Like, you can't just, you know, pick a, you know, you just say somewhere like secondary observation, nominal p-value. Like, there's 100 ways to disclaim that, like, hey, this p-value is really not legitimate. And in GWAS, if you know GWAS studies, they do like massive error corrections because they're fishing for what protein matches. So like in GWAS, the p-value has to be like 10 to the negative like 10, because like in a post hoc observation, because there's so much multiplicity being done that, you know, you will get a spurious correlation. And I posted one earlier about the length of the spelling bee word is correlated to, I forgot what it was, but it was like something like ridiculous that had nothing to do with the length of the spelling bee word of the championship for the spelling bee every year. Which is a really, really funny correlation. But I think the average Cassava person would look at it and say, yeah, these two things must be related. And I think statistics is just
people killed by venomous spiders.
That's it. Yeah, the length of the word, the winning word.
They do look similar, these graphs.
That you can find a shape that matches, right? Like that is the, you know, there is a shape that will match any shape, right? That is like with enough linear combinations, you will find a shape that matches it almost perfectly. And that's the whole point of that. And you will find that in any large data set. But can you prospectively a priori define it? That's the trick. That's very hard. You know, I love the idea of a football game or a basketball game because that's the most fun thing, because in every football game or basketball game, huge amount of statistics are generated and recorded. But the primary endpoint of most of these games is how many points does a team score? You could look at rebounds. You could look at assists. You could look at turnovers. You could look at just the first half. Oh, turnovers in the second half. We beat the Bulls at that, the Knicks-Bulls rivalry when I was growing up. But none of those things matter. You know, we don't throw a parade when the Knicks have more turnovers in the second half of the Bulls. We throw a parade when they win the primary endpoint, which is points. Medicine's a little tricky because the primary endpoint sort of changes, but the primary endpoint here is just 8S-COG. And you can't say, oh, it's only mild. And then when the phase 3 comes, they're going to say it's something else. And they've tried this before. This company's done this. Every biotech's done this. It's very, very common in biotech to do these post hoc retrospective justifications of why your drug failed the primary endpoint, but oh, don't worry, it still works. Because, you know, it's your whole company's on the line. And your job is to do your best for your shareholders. And, you know, the best thing you can often do is deliver the bad news. Like, we thank the patients. Unfortunately, the drug isn't what we thought it was. Onward and upward. You know, that's why you're careful in this space too. Like, you don't just advance crap into phase 3. Phase 3 is a huge commitment. Well, Dr. Wang is on bail, so he's perfectly reachable. I don't think he'd want to talk to anybody, given he's facing criminal. Well, there's Dr. Huang, who got sentenced to 18 years today.
Oh, okay, sorry. Yeah.
From the hedge fund world. And then there's Dr. Wang from the Cassava thing. And then they indicted Adani? Did you see this? The like richest guy in India?
I did not.
Yeah. It was so weird. Barely do because of the nature of the stuff. I'm wondering if they're rushing out all the indictments before Trump gets in. But like this guy is like literally the richest guy in India. They paid the government $250 million in bribes in India. This is a problem for India and their police, not us. It's really stupid, the FCPA. Oh, is it? Yeah, it's criminal. It's criminal. It's hard to turn FCPA. 85 billion net worth, second richest person in Asia. This is the one that Hindenburg hit. They're saying the jurisdiction is they raise money from Americans, which may or may not. I mean, it probably is true. They bribe the officials. DOJ is doing too much. I think. Look, I didn't like Fauci. I did not like Fauci before anybody even knew his name, but when they put him on the big stage, like he had to do his best. I don't think he did anything that wrong. You know, it's a crazy situation. It's like
That is correct.
you're an infectious disease doc and the biggest pandemic ever hits and you're in charge. Think about that.
Yeah, I get it.
That's like,
I get it, but I don't know.
Yeah,
Me?
don't mention Eco Health.
you know, Fauci did the best he could. We survived the pandemic. He did some good things. He did some bad things. I remember they were gonna actually kick him out of Moderna.
I mean,
This is
that's right on the line of like towing your responsibilities.
different
like,
question. I remember this way before COVID, like 2015. I got some calls that the board was looking to replace him, and if I knew anyone or had some ideas, and I think that was a soft feeler for like possibly even myself, and that would have been a funny alternate history. Martin Shkreli, CEO of Moderna.
Wow, that would have been tight as fuck.
Hey, COVID vaccine, huh? Might need to
We got the tech.
adjust the price of this one.